Okay, BFF, we have another shadow box idea. I'm going to try to do Calcifer from Howl's Moving Castle. So I have my color swatch, some colors I'm going to try. I think I'm going to stick with yellow, orange, and this kind of red. Skip the pinks probably for the most part, and then this very dark red on the end. I'm going to be using my Vanilla Acrylic Vanilla Pinks. And I have some ideas already. So this is the idea that I have, and I've drawn out Calcifer, and I think I'm going to get a branch from my yard in order to do his log that he is trying to hold on to. So let's go to this is what I've drawn out, and I have decided to leave the face off for the time being. My thought is that I don't know where the log will go, or the stick or branch, so I think I'm gonna wait until I have it in the box, in the shadow box, before I go too far. The arms are a little small, and they do look like that in the picture, but I'm not sure. I have tons of room, so I could make them longer if I want to later on. Those are just the starting points. Then we have the bottom part and the stone or soul down in the bottom, just like the picture. And then the legs. The legs I've decided to do round, and I will glue them with a glue dot on either side, sticking out once we have it in the frame. That is the starting point. So we'll do water over the entire surface. I really should have a bigger brush, shouldn't I? This will be yellow, the entire surface, and then we will add on the other colors. This is a Princeton size 4 Princeton snap. I do not know what I think of it. Sometimes I like it because it does hold a lot of water and pigment, but it's definitely not as pointy or sharp the way that I typically require my brushes. but since we're doing full surface right now, it's okay. It's working out fine. I think it might be okay for flowers if you're doing larger petals. I'm definitely adding a lot of yellow. It's supposed to be very cartoony, and this is more of a base color because we're going to cover it with quite a bit of orange. There's a lot of yellow down here. I may skip to a different brush. Yeah, let's do a different brush. I do have a couple larger ones. So these are my dynamic distraction brushes. They are no longer available, which is very upsetting, but I do have 2 sets of them, so hopefully that lasts me. I want to say this is a 4 as well, but if you can tell, this one is definitely more pointy than my Princeton. So let's do the whole surface with water with our dynamic distraction size 14. Ooh. Looks like there was some green left over in that. Looks like it's super in there. Hopefully we can color it over. Just mat this up really quick. Must not have cleaned my brush very well. Try this again. Looks like there's still some green in it, but hopefully we can wash it out with quite a bit of yellow. That's what I love about the dynamic distraction brushes, is how pointy they can get. I suppose it doesn't truly matter how pointy I am or how specific I am with this brushes, because I will be cutting it out. I plan on doing the same thing with Calcifer as I did with the Cornish Pixie. So we can just cut off what we don't want. So the yellow is definitely more necessary in the middle. And then the outside or perimeter of Calcifer is more orange. Probably do a few layers of yellow just so that way it is very bright for that cartoon look. Should probably check my reference to see how far in I want the orange. So on one reference there's quite a bit of orange, and then there's a lot of yellow on the other reference. So the orange up here is most of the outside and just the tiniest bit of yellow. So let's go on the outside. We can let that bleed out. It's nice because the paper is still wet, so it's doing very good. Got to hurry though, because it will dry. And if it dries, it will have a watermark. Okay, then let's curve this in, and that'll be his face. Then we can add more layers of orange here, and we can also add reds here and there. Leave that for a little bit. I like it so far. May have to add more yellow to this because of that mess up, that green that I accidentally added. Hopefully it doesn't change the tone too much, but if it does, it's okay. I have more paper and we can just totally do it again. Actually, what does the back look like? Yeah, we could just use the back. That's perfectly fine. Because again, I'm going to be cutting it out and adding it to the frame. Alright, so doing the orange on here, a little bit the same, but a little tighter, maybe. I switched references, so I'm gonna try to do this a little bit more realistic. I'm so glad we switched to the larger brush. This is more of a background right now, because the reference that I chose for the more details has quite a bit of like flame looking texture to it, or details, so I'm going to just add this on, and then I will add multiple layers for the other details. The stone in the more detailed reference has a sharp line around the stone, or the sole, bit of sole. So I'm gonna let this particular part dry so that way we can keep that going, or so we can get that sharp line around it. However, there is quite a bit of like striping through here with the orange, but I think we should go with the smaller brush for that finer detail. So let's bring this in, and it kind of comes down and then back up, and then down, and maybe like connected back up, but then, and right now it is still partially wet, so we can take advantage of that. So I don't know if you can see it, maybe not, but the yellow is still too soft for me. So I may have to go over it again. In which case, we definitely want it to dry before adding more details to it. Let's go back to the face really quick, or actually let's do the arms and the legs. Calcifer is easily one of my favorite characters. He's so funny. His attitude is everything. I love when him and Sophie are trying to outwit each other. What is your favorite Calcifer quote? I would love to know in the comments below. He really is the cutest. Gonna add orange to the outside. Gonna bring in a little bit more yellow, just kind of meld that together. I might add that red a little bit in here while it's wet, the bright red, just to see what it can do. I like it. Let's just wet it a little bit. Add in that orange just on the edges again. Get that bright red and just add it in a couple of the corners while it's wet. Yeah. Cute. Very, very cute. All right. That is still pretty wet. I guess we could add another layer to his head, because the head is fairly brighter or darker than the rest of him. So we'll start with yellow again. Add some yellow to the middle. Then we go to the orange. And then maybe we'll add some red to the wet parts. Just in certain sections, because I'm not really sure how much red I want to use. Now that I'm looking at the reference, it is quite a bit more than I originally thought. Okay. Maybe I'll just do red, orange, like here and there. Kind of like how the arms turned out. So could just add it. I think I went rogue. Try to fix this a little bit because I want it to be pointy, but it was too wet. I have to wait for that to dry before I go a little more. Let's add some of the dark red just on the ends. I like it. So the belly might be dry enough. It still feels damp, but it might be dry enough to do some detail. We're gonna add a layer of orange to this inner side. And it scoops around. Looks like it scoops, 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 scoops. And while it's scooping, it is also kind of muted on the end. It's not harsh, so I'm just adding a little bit of water and softening that edge. But this one I think I'll keep a little bit. And you know what, folks? I forgot that I wanted to add another layer of yellow to this. Let me see if I can just... So this part's gonna be really yellow. This part's really yellow. This part is kind of yellow. Gotta stay away from the just painted line because it will bleed together. We don't want that. And then this part is going to continue to be orange, so I might leave that alone. Yeah. And then all of this I wanted to be more yellow as well. don't know if this will, because it's pretty wet. If I move the paint too much, it will really smudge. So I need to stay on the surface and not push too hard. Not that the orange lines are perfect, but they will make everything orange instead of yellow. So let's do more orange around the base. Getting the small brush with some yellow and just kind of smearing this orange and yellow together. We'll probably need some red to make that part more noticeable on the stone or sole, but that's okay. Another time. It's looking good. I do like it. I'm satisfied so far. All right. Let's do these legs. I was pretty proud of myself when I drew these up, just because it was very simplistic, and normally everything that I draw ends up being a very long process. So I was just excited for myself to draw something simple. I have a bad habit of thinking something will be simple and then it turns into a 2-hour project. And I always wonder how I managed to do that to myself. I'm like, oh, this will be relaxing. And it's like 2 hours later, only halfway through, or something like that. I'm just like, oh, shoot. This was not as simple as I wanted it to be. I know I've talked on my channel before about Emma LaFave. I don't know if you remember BFF, but I love her episodes. I love her YouTube channel because all of her stuff is simplistic. And I always think, yeah, I should try something like that. I should just do something fun and simplistic and less, not work, but less research or less, details, and it'll be so relaxing and fast, you know what I mean? Like, we can immediately start painting or immediately start gratification by getting it done in half an hour. And then, 2 hours later, I'm like, what happened? What happened to the fun, easy breezy project? I don't know. It always ends up that way. Even my crochet projects end up that way. I'm like, oh, this will be really short and sweet. I'll get it done. And then I'm adding tassels and beads. I'm like, nope. I don't know what happened. Why did I get this idea? I'm really having fun getting ready for the Ren Fair here in Maine, though. I'm crocheting some witchy things. I make witchy hats and little mushroom bags, quite a few things. It's a lot of fun. So I've done a couple layers of orange now. It's still wet, which is good. I'm just patting it down in there so it bleeds out. I like how that looks. And then I can add a little bit of that red. Adding the red in. I don't really have a general place for the red. I'm just adding it here and there. So it's not fierily accurate, just placing it. I think Emma LaFave would be proud. I know it's not a flower, but I'm trying to be simple, but elegant or fun. Just add a little bit of red here so it pops more. This is not wet, it's not blending out well, that's okay. We're gonna smush it. Smush, smush, smush. Smush, 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 smush. 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 Very nice. I don't know if you can tell, but our yellow that we reeded up here is bleeding in to the stone. I don't hate it right now. It doesn't look terrible, but just pointing out, if you have not painted before, watercolor painted before, that does happen. So again, if you wanted this super sharp and detailed, you're gonna have to wait for one of them to dry before working on the other one. Just pointing that out, BFF. All right, I think this is day 1. I think we'll come back to it on day 2. Probably add a little bit more yellow here. Again, I want it to be really bright. Check on the legs and make sure the legs and the arms, make sure that that yellow is very bright, and then we can focus, once that is dry, on the heart. Okay, see you on day 2. All right, BFF, we have a reference, so we're going to go ahead and finish that stone. Belly part. So it looks like there's some color in here. That I want to bleed out. I activated the paint on the paper. So we gotta be careful when we add on other colors. I'm gonna add some more orange just to these edges. And I'm probably going to need a smaller brush, as that is way too much. Not at all what I wanted. Try to stick to the edge. Try to scoop that up a little bit. Try to meet this puddle. So it didn't bloom the way I wanted, and that's my fault. The lighting isn't the best in here, so I really can't tell where my puddle is. Also, I don't know if I had enough water, if it was puddled at all. It might not have been, and if that's the case, then it would be hard to bloom if there wasn't enough water. That doesn't look terrible, but it's not originally what I was thinking. I wanted it to be more like this, I think. Let's leave it rest now, and let's try to add on a little bit more of these. So in the reference, this part is glowing, or this part is darker, and this part is darker, so this bit is the glowing part. So I'm going to try to do that bloom again in this horrible lighting. And we'll add water to this line. Just like that. Just keep adding water, and I'm trying not to press hard again because I don't want to activate the base layer. Then I'll pick up some of that orange, and I'll try my best to stay on the line. This one bleeds quite a, or is the same color, so we'll have to tap maybe some red in there. That's blooming better, I think. So definitely need a lot of water. Definitely worked better. And then we can try to add a little bit of red just to this one. Good. And then we'll add clear water to this side. And because this is already quite orange, I think we'll skip the orange layer. Well, actually, maybe not. Let's go ahead and add that orange so it can bloom out a little bit into the yellow. And then we can add the red. I'm a little rusty, it appears. I haven't painted in a few months, actually. It's supposed to be a simple project, and then everything happened at once, and I haven't been painting at all. I'm gonna go around here. Alright. Check out my reference really quick and see how that works. And then this, now that this is more red, it's extremely noticeable that it's not as red over here. To me, it looks very pink. So let's check the reference really quick. So this side is very orange. I'll pick up some orange. I think I'll leave the pink. I'm not going to argue with it, but may add a little bit of orange blooming from this side. And then a little bit of red just tapped here. It looks like the orange continues around. I might do a little bit of yellow, kind of just smearing upward. Soften that little corner right there. And it has quite a bit of orange that kind of comes down into this. Which I think kind of creates this shaping. but it'll dry light, so let's try to layer it up. And then we'll put, while it's wet, a little bit of red, a little bit of red up here. Just kind of outlining. And maybe while it's still red, we should add just a little bit of a thicker red where those edges are. I like this bloom, it's very nice, very watery, natural. So I'm gonna try adding water to the edge so it blooms. Kind of blurs it. Kind of just playing at this point because my sketch is slightly different than the original. I might want to add more to this, so we'll put a lot of water on the surface. And I'm just going to add a little bit more color on these flames that I have going. This is not really a part of the reference. I saw it on another picture of flames and thought I would try it out. So we'll do orange first, and I want to be quick about it. Because it blooms. But I don't want this to be blooming. I want it to streak, but be blurry at the same time, which is why we put water on the page. But I don't want it to do that bubble like bloom on the end. I want it to be sharp down here. Oop. Pull it up. That was close. It's not terrible. while it's wet, I wonder if I should do a little bit of red detail. I don't even know if this part will be seen because of the branch, so I'm just entertaining myself at this point. I really haven't painted in a while, so I am enjoying it. Yeah, I like that a lot. Alright. So I think we're good. And I think what we're gonna do now is let it sit. And then we will cut it out. Again, I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do for the eyes. So I can use an X-Acto knife, cut all the pieces out, kind of layer it, get it settled in what I think it will look like, and that'll give me a better idea of where the eyes should be. Okay? Did you see these little guys too? Aren't they cute? I have a little plaque that I'm going to put in there with them. Freshly caught soot sprites. You've seen them here, folks. So I'll have Calcifer on display in soot sprites. I'm super excited. Alright, let's get that knife. So my X-Acto knife comes in this fancy little box. My husband got it for me. I have yet to use all of these. I typically just use this one. I have no idea what I will use these for, but they're quite smart. Right, we need a surface to cut on. So I just have a sketchbook that I use the back in order to protect the desk. Let's make this a little easier. So this is still wet. Just leave that to dry and work on the legs. A lot of times I just do basic shapes. And then I go back and kind of finesse it later. Again, watercolor paints are reactive, so if I'm particularly oily or sweaty, the paint will come off on my fingers. All of these tiny bits. I can go back and paint the edges of these as well, because right now they're going to be a very dramatic white. So if you see like all of this white, so we can go over and paint that too. But you see how you just like cut out the basic shapes and remove larger bits or smaller bits. The point is not to rush things, because we're not in a hurry, we're making art. There's nothing to rush about. And there we go. Nice. So that came out really well. And then we need to paint the edges, like I said, and they won't be as noticeable. So probably a lot of yellow first, and a little bit of orange. So I've started painting the edges. And all I'm doing is going along that razor's edge. Let me see. And I'll do this for his entire body. So I will see you back when he's entirely cut out and spruced up, and we can figure out how we're doing the eyes. Okay? Alright, first fantasy friends, here is Calcifer. And he is permanently mounted on his log or stick. We can open the frame. So he can be moved around and be permanently mounted somewhere in the frame if the buyer so chooses. There's also a card in here with information of where Calcifer was found, and that can be moved as well. So that is not permanent, it can go anywhere at all. And the magnet is rather strong. There are two of them. It does snap rather loud. But there he is. I also created a Cornish Pixie from the Harry Potter realm, and I had a tiny little plaque for him as well, when he was caught, whose class he was caught in, where he was discovered. So my idea was to collection of curiosities or oddities from other realms, and I would curate them in frames like this. I like the idea of like the curiosities gothic as well, curiosity oddities, but that's not normally my style. I'm kind of more at the fairy realm side of the spectrum, like pretty greens and things like that. And so I came up with this idea that everything would be mounted very similar to this. I think for Calcifer, I was afraid that he would burn his grass, so he's just in here simplistically. If you have any ideas of what should be in his background, let me know. It would be kind of cool if I could somehow maybe make an cast iron pan coming out. I'm not really sure how I would do it yet. It could maybe be done with paper as well. And maybe he's floating above it and I could move his information somewhere else. Let me know what you think, Brush Fantasy friend. Do you have any ideas for Calcifer and what his background is missing? But in any case, this was Calcifer's creation. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to purchase Calcifer, you can hop onto my Ko-fi page and private message me, and he can come home with you. Remember, he burns bacon. See you soon, Brush Fantasy friend.